Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Lunch with Haley. Unfortunately, we had a call on Audible today. GoToWebinar, the service that we always use very reliably for Lunch with Haley, is unfortunately experiencing a major outage, which has affected everyone that is looking to run webinars or GoToMeetings today. So again, we've called an audible and moved this over to Facebook Live. And Facebook recently released screen sharing and the ability to share your screen live as opposed to just video. So this is something brand new. We've never done it before. It will be an interesting test for us. And as you'll see in today's presentation, search engine optimization is all about testing and trying new things. And this is a great test for us, an unintentional test, but nonetheless a great test. So we'll see if this recording on Facebook Live and the subsequent playbacks on Facebook Live has any impact on overall visibility, on search engine rankings, on social engagement. So these are the type of things that we're always testing anyway. So I appreciate you being a part of our live test here. With that said, we probably at some point will look to reschedule this webinar for GoToWebinar when it's back up and running. We'll record that. We'll make sure everyone has access to the recording. But in the meantime, let's jump right into today's webinar. We have a lot of great information to share. My name is Brad Smith. I'm the Director of SEO and Social Media here at Haley Marketing. And joining me is Dan Hong. Dan is our lead SEO analyst, and Dan works closely with our clients on helping improve their search rank, helping make sure that new websites are fully optimized, and helping to make sure that our clients' existing websites continue to gain traction in search results and get the most valuable traffic that we can. So Dan, thank you for joining us today. He's going to add some great insights for us. So I want to start off today by talking a little bit about what search engine optimization really is. So what is SEO? And this is a more formal definition, but SEO is really the process of driving targeted traffic to your site from people that are using search engines to look for the services, the products, or the information that you provide. Now, the challenge here in this definition of SEO is that it goes against what a lot of people think SEO really is. A lot of people think SEO is simply about keywords and ranking for an individual keyword or some defined set of keywords. And oftentimes we get calls from SEO salespeople, and this is just an example. I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm sure this is an email or a call that you've all received. An SEO salesman reaches out to you, sometimes overseas, sometimes domestic here, and they say, hey, I Googled the best human capital management and talent acquisition agencies, and I noticed you weren't #1 in search results. Your SEO really stinks, and you're leaving a lot of business on the table, and the sky is falling, and your business is going to go on, is going to tank. And they try to use fear to make you feel like you have to do something with your site, that your site's SEO is underperforming. What's worse is a lot of times they're going to go and target your CEO, and they're going to reach out to the CEO and say, hey, I did a Google search and you're doing all of these horrible things wrong and you're never going to show up in search results. And they'll pick a single keyword or a set of keywords that you don't rank well for and use that to their advantage to strike fear in you. Okay? And that's based on the methodology that people think SEO is all about ranking for a specific search term in Google. Okay? Again, I want to reiterate that search engine optimization isn't about just ranking for an individual keyword. That's one way to get targeted traffic to your site is ranking for a few keywords high in search results. But I'll echo this throughout the presentation. SEO is about driving targeted traffic to your site. Let me use an analogy here. If you were to post one of your open positions up on Indeed or Career Builder or Simply Hired or one of the job board aggregators, would you be happy if your job was just seen by a lot of people? Or do you need to get applications so that you can actually fill an open job order? That sounds like a silly question, but you need applications. Just because your job is seen doesn't mean anything. And that's really what keyword rank is. It just means that your website shows up in search results. It doesn't mean anybody took an action. So instead of focusing on keyword rank, look at overall search traffic to your site. Now we're going to introduce how you get more of that search traffic to your site, but that is the key metric here. Search traffic to your site, not keyword rank. Now, here's why you don't want to focus on a single keyword. We use some data here and we can see what people are typing into Google results. And I can type in a term like staffing. And as you can see here, there are almost 24,000 different phrase match keywords that are closely related to staffing. If you're focusing only on one keyword, you're leaving so much potential traffic on the table. We need to make sure that what you're targeting, the keyword phrases that you're targeting, really are taking into account more than just one or two terms. Look at the word like temp agency. There's 4,000 to 5,000 different phrases that people are using. The takeaway here is that not everyone is going to search on a term the same way that you would. We need to think holistically and think about all the variety of different terms that people are going to use, focus keywords, other contextual keywords, and we need to build our site with rich content, rich media that leverages a variety of different keywords, not just one or two. And again, that's why it's so important to not focus solely on a single keyword and get encouraged or discouraged if you rank well or not. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about keyword research. And the image that we chose for this slide was very, very deliberate. And that's because keyword research really is a science. It's data science. We can take a look at overall traffic volumes. We can see what people are searching for. We can see what different keywords they're typing in. We can look at competition. We can use all this information to our advantage to make sure that the broad set of keywords that we select are the right keywords, are going to drive valuable traffic to our site, and are going to drive the right traffic to our site. Now, when we go and conduct keyword research, Dan and I here are using a variety of different tools. We're using Google Keyword Planner, and this is a free tool that you can use out there. Then we also use some really aggressive paid tools. One's called SEMrush, and the other is called Ahrefs. And we use these in different ways, and we'll dig into that a little bit more here. But basically, what we're trying to do is find high traffic phrases and varieties of different terms with low competition level. What we don't want to do is target a keyword or a set of terms that is so competitive that we're never going to rank for it. And I'll give you a perfect example, a term like jobs. You might say, hey, I need to rank well for jobs. I need to rank well for engineering jobs because I'm an engineering recruiter. I'm going to tell you what, that's a broad blanket term. It's going to be very, very difficult to go up against sites like Indeed, like CareerBuilder, like Monster, like engineering job boards that have literally millions of pieces of content and a whole ton of backlinks back to their site that make them very reputable and help them rank above other sites. So we need to be very specific and very deliberate in the terms that we're incorporating into our site and the terms that we're optimizing for. Now, Dan, I'm going to kind of pass it over to you and maybe walk us through keyword research. What are some of the things that you're looking for? I mentioned we use all these great tools and we export all this great data and we see all these wonderful statistics and figures on the right here. How do you really boil this down and pick what keyword and what terms you're really going to focus on? Walk us through some of the keys in keyword research.
Sure. So when we're doing our keyword research, it's really not about always picking the most popular keywords. So when we're doing our keyword research, we want to choose keywords with buyer intent. And what I mean by buyer intent is we really want to think about it from the perspective of the searcher so we can really understand what they're looking for. So are they seeking information on a general topic? Or are they looking to buy staffing services? That's really something that we need to keep in mind when we're selecting keywords. Also, we want to examine the competition. So we want to look at the keywords that your competitors are targeting as well and see if there's an opportunity for us to rank for these same keywords. We want to look at their backlink profiles so we can determine how authoritative their site is. And we'll get more into backlinks later on in the presentation. But the main thing that the main thing about competition, we basically want to see if we realistically have a shot at ranking for this particular popular term. And if not, we can look for less competitive terms with similar buyer intent and then target those keywords instead. So another thing that we want to look at is that we want to make sure that the keyword that we're targeting is relevant to the page content. So Google isn't just looking for keywords on a page when they're looking at the results. Their goal is to provide the best result that answers the search query of the user. So just because you put keywords on your page doesn't necessarily mean that your content is the best result. And then also, more importantly, even if someone does find their way to your site from a keyword and then your content isn't relevant to that keyword, they're not going to convert. Next, we want to make sure we're not targeting a single term. So remember that your users will naturally type in different variations of terms when they're searching for your services. So it's important that we optimize for many different terms, literally hundreds of different terms, so we can ultimately drive more targeted traffic back to your site. Next, the context is important. So Google wants to understand the meaning of your content. So it's not only looking for your target keyword, but it's also looking for other related terms that it would expect to see in a piece of content like that, so that it can gauge the context and see what your article really means. And then finally, we want to use their terms, not your terms. And what we mean by that, by they, we mean the people who are searching for your services. So you may likely refer to your services as something internally, and there may be terms that you will use, that your team will use. But the problem with that is that other people might not be using those terms when they're searching for your services. So even if you were to rank #1 for a term like that, that really won't bring any targeted traffic back to your site, which is your goal.
Yeah, great point, Dan. To share an example, we have some clients that refer to themselves as human capital management solutions firms. Okay, and that sounds great because they provide a very high level of consultation, a very consultative service. But if the audience is searching for temp agencies and you're optimizing yourself for human capital management services and no one's using that term, you're not going to drive any traffic to your site. So again, use their terms, not yours. All right, so far we've talked a little bit about what SEO is and isn't. We've outlined why SEO is crucial, and we showed some statistics there on the level of volume that a set of different keywords are getting. We've talked a little bit about how to choose the right keywords, and Dan just shared some amazing tips. Now what? Now I want to introduce you to kind of old school SEO and new school SEO. So we've got our terms that we really want to focus on, and in the past, old school SEO was a singular keyword focus, and we've said it a bunch of different times. We can't focus on a single keyword anymore. The search engines, and we'll get into machine learning and something called RankBrain here in a little bit, but Google and the other search engines are looking for user intent, they're looking for engagement, and as Dan just mentioned, they're looking for context. So we have to have a variety of different terms. New school SEO is ROI and conversion focused. I mentioned earlier that just getting people to view your job openings isn't enough. You need applications. Same goes for SEO. Just showing up in search results isn't enough. You need clicks. We need to make sure that content's optimized for humans. In the past, you could just stuff keywords in and Google would rank you higher. Google's now looking at user interaction and how people are engaging with your site after they click. And if you're just stuffing keywords and there's no context, like Dan just mentioned, then you're not going to rank high and you're not going to provide a good experience and you're not going to get that search traffic. In the past, backlinks, which we'll dig into, was all about getting as many possible backlinks as you can. Well, that shifted. Now quality takes more precedence. We want backlinks from highly reputable sites because that's going to be a signal to Google that your site is highly reputable. And a question just came in. Vanessa asked if this presentation is going to be recorded and sent out. Vanessa, I apologize, but with the technical difficulties, GoToWebinar wasn't accessible. So we're streaming it here live on Facebook. It should be recorded. But again, this is something brand new for us, just like it is for you. So thanks for joining us. It should be recorded and it should be live after this. But even if not, we'll reschedule our webinar, make sure that it's recorded, and make sure that this content gets out to you so that you can share it with your peers as well. And last on this list here, we want to make sure our site's mobile, it's responsive, and we have very high quality, unique content. These are all things that we're going to dig into, but that's really new school SEO. It's not about just picking a keyword, stuffing your website full of it, and ranking highly. It's taking into account all of these other factors. And as you see on the screen here, there's a lot of different factors that we need to take into account. And this is just a partial list. So we need to look at domain factors like age, authority, history of your domain, trust, URL length, all of these different factors tied to your domain name. We need to look at on-page elements like the basics of meta title tags and descriptions and location of keywords, all the way down to very technical things like semantic keywords and schema markup, which we'll dig into. We need to look at links and overall the total number of links coming to your site, but even more importantly, the quality of those links. We need to look at user experience. So what are things like click-through rate and page load speed and page layout and overall traffic? What is the user's experience on your site? And finally, we need to look at social signals. Social signals are a cue of trust and authority to search engines. So we want to incorporate some social signals there. So let's dig into each one of these elements a little bit deeper. And what we'll do over the next several slides is go from some of the basics. So some of the table stakes. What do we need to do to even get in the door? And then we'll get progressively a little bit more detailed and a little bit more technical, and we'll even geek out a little bit and talk about some advanced things here. So first and foremost, we're going to start with your domain. Many of you already have your domain selected, and that's great. If you're a new company or launching a new company or launching a new site, you want to make sure that you pick with a good domain and stick with it. Dan and I always go back and forth and talk a little bit about clients that want to change domain names. And while we can do everything possible to set up redirects and other things, there's some inherent SEO loss when you switch domains. So if at all possible, try to keep your same domain. You want it short and brandable. If it makes sense, include keywords, but don't go out of your way to stuff keywords in there. Okay, pick a domain that matches your brand. If your domain has a good history and authority, stick with it. And then a small little ranking factor, and one that's easy to influence, is just making sure that your domain is registered for a long amount of time. So if Google looks and sees your domain is registered month to month or is only registered for the next 3 or 4 months, that's a signal that, hey, maybe your company won't be around in a little bit, so maybe you shouldn't rank. When at all possible, extend your domain name for 5 or more years. Very inexpensive to do, and it's one tiny little ranking factor that can help. Also, look to stick with the .com. Stay away from country codes. And this is a real example of a client that we had, physical therapy staffing company, and they were sold a bill of goods and said, hey, you really need to secure the .pt domain name, and that should be your core domain because PT is an abbreviation for physical therapy, right? Well, no, it's the country extension for Portugal. So had we not advised them against not changing from .com to .pt, they would have really dramatically hurt their SEO, especially in the domestic US here. So when at all possible, stick with the .com. If you have a .net and you're doing well right now, I wouldn't suggest going out there and completely switching, but when at all possible, stick with the .com. And Dan, I'm going to ask you this question, which you and I get all the time. Can I just go out and buy a lot of domains that have really good keywords in it, like staffing agencies, Tulsa, and just redirecting that over to my main site? That's going to help me rank, right?
Well, really, this isn't nearly as effective of a strategy as it used to be. Now, instead, what you should really just do is focus on building a strong brand. Over time, you'll just start generating more branded search queries. For example, people might go in and type in, your brand and then staffing. And then over time, Google will equate your brand with staffing and then start to rank you for staffing related terms.
Yeah, so Dan's dead on. It used to be a ranking signal in the past, looking at very specific exact match domains. It's becoming less and less frequent. So stick with your core domain. Don't go around scooping up all these different domains thinking that it's going to help in SEO. It's not. Okay. It might help if you use a branded domain somewhere that, like on a billboard or something, that's easy to remember in redirecting it. But from pure SEO standpoint, it is not going to help your rankings. Don't get carried away with long domains. Keep them nice, short, and simple. In your domain structure for the subpages of your site, so in the URLs, in your services section, in your employers and job seekers section, look to include keywords when and where it makes sense. So in this example, we have staffing agencies, Dallas. This might be for the client services page that is talking about the staffing services that this company offers. You need to make sure that if you're including keywords in the URL, the page that the page content should match and be relevant to the keywords that you use in the URL. Don't just keyword stuff. Now let's talk a little bit about on-page SEO and some of the basics here. We're going to look at something called title tags in your metadata. This is that little piece of text that shows up in search results when you do rank well. It's that headline. It also shows up in the top blue bar or top bar of your internet browser. And each page of your site should have a unique meta page title. Again, it's going to show up in search results. What we suggest doing as a best practice is mix in your most important keywords near the beginning of the title, but don't go overboard. You want to keep it to about 50 to 60 characters. If you go beyond that, Google will automatically truncate that. It's going to look strange and funny. Also, try to get your most important keywords up front, and then include your company name on the trailing end of that, like the example here. And like I just mentioned, we want to make sure that each page has unique title tags that relate to the content and meaning for that page. Use keywords that are specific, use keywords early, and then put the company name at the end. Next is your meta page description. This is that little bit of text that comes after your title. Now, in the past, I think Google placed a much stronger emphasis on description when looking at ranking signals. What they found was that SEOs and companies were just stuffing keywords in there and trying to rank well. Google has come out and said it's not necessarily something that is a ranking factor any longer, a direct ranking factor. However, if you include very specific keywords and write a really compelling meta description, it can help click-through rate, which is a ranking factor. So what you want to do in your meta descriptions is sell the value of this page of your site. Again, every page in your site should have a unique meta page description, just like a unique meta page title. Sell the value of that page. Explain to people what value, what they're going to get out of clicking. If you can drive up your click-through rate by having more effective page descriptions, that is a ranking factor, and over time, you'll rank higher in search results. And this is something new that was rolled out over the last year or so. Before, Google used to limit page descriptions to about 150 characters. They've doubled it now. Now you can put up to 300 or more characters into your meta description. So you have more room to sell the value of your site. Okay. If you are getting keywords into your meta descriptions and somebody is searching on those keywords will be bolded. So that also can help with your click-through rate, again, which is a ranking signal. Next, in on-page SEO, we're going to dig into the copy or content that's actually on individual pages. It's very important how you structure this content and how your website is actually programmed and built. You should use heading tags. And if your site's built properly, these should be built into the theme or the design of the site. And you want to make sure that each page in your site has one and only one, what they call H1 tag. This is a signal to Google that this is what our page is about. So include specific keywords in your H1s. In this case, this is a page for one of our clients that relates to their IT staffing services. So you can see that we've gotten that keyword prominently in the H1 tags. Then further down, you'll see all other heading tags. These are H2 and H3 tags. We've also included supporting keywords there. Now, we're trying to rank well for IT staffing services, but another term that people might be searching for another contextual term, IT staff augmentation, staffing services, IT staffing services. So as you can see here, we're mixing in a variety of different terms, and we're mixing those terms into the heading tags, which can be very important. As I mentioned earlier, that's kind of just the table stakes. That gets you in the game, okay? That used to be enough to rank well. You used to be able to do those few simple things and see your site at the top of a variety of different search results and earn a lot of that traffic. It's no longer the case. We need to get more aggressive with the SEO. We need to get more strategic. We need to get more technical. So let's dig into that a little bit. And I mentioned earlier and warned you that we were going to get a little bit more technical and progressively more technical as we went along here. So we're going to transition now and talk about RankBrain, content strategy, and links. And these are three core areas that you need to pay attention to if you want to improve your search engine optimization efforts and drive more traffic. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about RankBrain. And I'm going to turn it over to Dan here to talk about RankBrain and what it actually is.
Sure. So RankBrain is Google's name for its machine learning artificial intelligence system that it uses to process its search results. Now, what exactly is it though? It sounds really complicated and complex, but really it isn't. Basically, Google is just paying attention to how users are interacting with the search engine results and then automatically adjusting the rankings accordingly to make sure that they're showing the best results at the top.
Terrific. Thanks, Dan. And, you know, we've mentioned it a few times, but we can't be singularly focused on a keyword. We need a keyword phrase. We need related keywords. We need secondary related keywords. All of these things are going into RankBrain. So RankBrain is looking at all of this. It's doing machine learning. It's seeing what related terms people are typing in. If you do any Google search and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see related terms there. If you start typing in a search into Google, you'll see it automatically populate. That's RankBrain. Okay. Google is learning your behavior. It's learning the search behavior of people, and it's using all that data, all that information, all that user experience to determine what sites should rank well and what sites shouldn't. So in this example here, let's say you wanted to, your core focus keyword was a term like White House. Well, you're going to have to use not only White House, but terms like president, like Washington, like government. And with this administration, you might have to use secondary terms like fake news or orange or something else, Russia, that relate to the White House, relate to the president, relate to Washington. So not only focusing on just one term, but looking at all the semantic keywords that go along with that, all the keyword variations that go along with that, and mix that into your content strategy. All right. One good takeaway from this webinar, and write this down, if you don't have Google Search Console set up for your website yet, do it. It's going to provide some very valuable information to you. And if you've worked with Haley Marketing Group here on SEO for your site, we have set up Google Search Console for you. We use this to take a look at key metrics like clicks, impressions, click-through rate, where you rank. Again, this will give you a real good indication for whether or not your SEO is actually working. This is way better to look at than just a keyword ranking report. And there's actionable information you can glean from this. And Dan, maybe walk us through some of the things that we look at Search Console and we take into consideration when looking at RankBrain. These are three key metrics that really drive SEO results. Can you walk us through these?
Sure. So RankBrain really consists of hundreds of different factors, but here are three major ones. The first is click-through rate. So the click-through rate is the percentage of people that click on the website in the search results. So basically, when someone performs a search, if there are a lot of people clicking on a particular result, say it's in the 4th slot, it's a signal to Google that this result is probably really relevant and people are liking this search result. So what Google might do automatically is bump this up, boost this up to maybe the 2nd slot. Another thing we'd like to look at is the dwell time. And the dwell time is the combination of user engagement on the site, as well as the session duration or the time on page. So say a lot of people click on your result, right? And then they go to that page. But if the user immediately leaves that page without reading the content and they just go to another result, that's a signal to Google that, hey, the content really didn't solve the user's problem. It didn't answer their question. So they might actually boot it from those top positions and replace it with something else. And then finally, the bounce rate. The bounce rate is the percentage of people who leave the site after visiting only one page. So if people land on your page and then they immediately bounce without clicking through to other pages, this can signal that maybe the content is just hard to read, or maybe there are problems with navigation and user experience on your site. So maybe they'll land on a page and they're just at a dead end and they have no idea where to go. So that's also something that Google is looking at.
Terrific. Thanks, Dan. Let's dig into each one of these 3 factors now, and we'll walk through and share actionable steps you can take to improve each one of these and drive more search results. So to improve click-through rate, the first thing you're going to do is obviously get access to Google Search Console, and you're going to look at terms that you have a low click-through rate for. You're going to look at updating your meta page title. So maybe you want to have those terms earlier in the meta page title. You're going to look at updating your meta page description. So again, the meta page description is where you're really selling the value of the content on that page. Sell the value better. Adjust your page title and see what impact that has on click-through rate. Test out different language, add more value. So I have the acronym here, and this stands for what's in it for me. So don't write about all the great things that you do. Write about all the great problems that you solve for clients. Okay, what's in it for them? If you can explain what's in it for them, they're way more likely to click through. And then if all else fails and you're still not driving click-through rate, you may want to refocus the keyword strategy for that page. It might just not be the right keyword or search term for that page. And you may be ranking for a term that, that really you're not going to get traffic for, that you shouldn't be ranking for to begin with. So you might have to refocus your strategy there. Now let's take a look at dwell time. Again, Dan mentioned that dwell time is the time people spend on your site, the interaction and engagement they have for your site once they click on your result from Google. Google's tracking that through, and if they find that somebody clicks on a search result, goes to your site and bounces, leaves right away and comes back to search results, that's an indicator that, hey, you shouldn't rank there. Google's in the business of serving up good quality searches. They need people to continue to trust them and come back. And if they're serving up searches that aren't related to what the searcher's looking for, you're no longer going to rank there, and they're no longer going to use Google. So we need to make sure that dwell time is improved. So to do this, you can use Google Analytics to identify top and bottom performing pages on your site. So look at time on page. If you find that your time on page is very low, look at that page, refocus your content, add stronger calls to action. Make sure that you're matching the searcher intent. Okay, make sure that you're not overselling on your meta page descriptions and promising something that isn't on the page. Make sure that everything aligns there. You can look to add rich media to your website in the form of videos, slide shares, infographics, something that really pulls people in, engages them, and makes them want to look at the page. We had a consulting meeting this morning, and one great takeaway here was that the job of the first line of copy on your website is to get them to read the second line of copy. Use that philosophy throughout your site to get people further and deeper into your site, and think that way. Think about a traffic flow and a traffic path, and your dwell time will go up consistently. One of the simplest is simply add more valuable content. So think about the problems and questions that you get asked each and every day. Turn that into great, compelling content. You need to look at improving your mobile experience. If you go to your website on mobile and the text is tiny and it's a jumbled mess, people aren't going to stay on your site. And more people are using mobile now than desktop. You need to make sure you have a great mobile experience, or else your dwell time is going to be horrible and your search results and traffic is going to be horrible. Present content in an easy to digest format, use bullets, use big headlines, structure it in a way that's compelling and easy to look at. And then also use good internal linking and share related content. So make it easy and very specific on what action you want people to take next, and your dwell time will be improved. Now let's look a little bit at bounce rate. And Dan mentioned earlier that bounce rate is the percentage of people that come to your website and leave after visiting only one page. This is a bad indicator, and it's an indicator to you that if you have a high bounce rate on a page, that you need to do something about that page. You can use Google Analytics to identify top bounce pages, and it's a key metric at the top of any page data. What you need to do is provide a better experience. And I mentioned this earlier, but improve readability. If you go to a website and there's just, text and text and text and paragraphs of text, it's impossible to read. It's not appealing to people. You need to break that up. You need to provide a better experience. If you have a page with a high bounce rate, it might mean that you simply need a stronger call to action. Define the next path you want a visitor to take. That's what a call to action really is. What do you want them to do next? And make it as simple and easy as possible to get them onto the next page, get them deeper into that funnel so they become a candidate or a client for you. You need to make sure that your page is optimized for the right term. If you find that your bounce rate is high for a given page from search results, it might just be that you're optimized for the wrong term and you need to change your keyword strategy. You need to improve site speed and mobile experience, which you talked about, sharing related content, adding rich media. All those things that can help improve dwell time will also help to improve bounce rate. White papers and long form content, which we'll get into in a little bit here, is a great way to improve bounce rate too. If you can have highly valuable content, people are going to dig deeper into your site. And then the last thing here is something called exit technology. So this is when the browser or your website actually knows when somebody is going to hit that back button or going to close out of the browser, and a little pop-up comes up. Now, you have to be very tasteful with this because it can be annoying, and you also have to provide extreme value for this to be effective. So what can you provide to people that will get them to say, hey, yeah, you're right, I need this content, and not get them to leave your page? And I think that's when exit technology becomes effective. So those are our three key areas that you want to look at to improve your site, improve the user experience, and they will dramatically help improve search results. All right, let's that's RankBrain. Let's transition just slightly and talk a little bit about good content. And really, with SEO, a lot has changed in the last year. But since the dawn of time, there's been two underwriting factors with SEO. One, you have to have great quality content. Two, you have to have good inbound links. So we're going to talk about both of these. We're going to start with content. We're going to explain how great content can also help you build more inbound links. I mentioned from the dawn of time with search results, and here's an example of it. Google's official blog way back in 2011 has come out and said that search results are best when they're fresh. Google changed their indexing system to display fresh content. More searches are, those people at the top of search results are there because they have great content. And this is a slide that we've included in every SEO webinar we've done since 2011. And that's because it really hasn't changed. At the core of your SEO strategy needs to be good quality content. You're not going to rank well without it. So ask yourself, do you have an ongoing content plan? Do you create content that aligns with your goals? What's your goal with SEO? Your goal, again, isn't to rank well for a given term. It's to get good quality traffic to your site and get that traffic to convert. So think about your goal ahead of time. What type of people do you want to get to your site? What action do you want them to take? And then work backwards. Develop content that supports that goal, and then develop keywords to go along with that content that will attract the right people. You need to create content that adds value for the user. If somebody gets to your site and they're promised a a great piece of content you don't deliver, they're not going to come back, or they're going to bounce right away. And over time, that's going to really impede your search rankings and search results. You need to mix in different forms of rich media. We mentioned earlier, infographics, slide shares, videos, all that good stuff. Add content weekly to your site in the form of blog posts, articles, resources, and be consistent with it. You should begin to think about the concept of pillar content. And this is something that we've been exploring and looking at and implementing for quite a bit of time here. If you go to the Haley Marketing Group website, you'll see this in action. We have some amazing ebooks. We film in-depth webinars. And then we support all of that with blog posts, infographics, slide shares, press releases, social shareables, videos. So all of these things go hand in hand to really produce great SEO results. And pillar content is really just a substantial piece of content. It's a white paper, or it's an in-depth research study, or it's a longer ebook that is really focused around a key theme or a key topic. And then you break that key theme or key topic into digestible nuggets. So again, maybe you take a white paper focused on retaining top performers. You break that into a series of blog posts and outline the 7 keys to retaining top performers, and you break that into 7 blog posts. Maybe you do an infographic that then links back to the white paper. You do a slide share that breaks this white paper into easily digestible slides. You do a press release and distribute this to announce this white paper and link back to it. You turn all the graphics and research and charts from the white paper into social shareables and link back to that white paper. You create supporting videos. So there's a lot of great things that you can do to help support this pillar content and rank for a theme of different keywords, and then have supporting and contextual related keywords in all of the supporting items like blog posts and infographics. So this is an absolutely great SEO strategy. But not only that, it's a great lead generation strategy, because if you create this wonderful pillar content that people want, that turns into a lead source for you. All right. We mentioned this earlier, but great content is actually going to help you build more links. So the most effective link building strategy starts with good quality content that people actually want to link to. So start there. So Dan, I'm going to transition over to you, and I want you to talk a little bit about why links are so important and what Google's actually looking for when they're looking at your website link profile.
Sure. So why are backlinks so important? So if 2 sites are targeting the same keyword, how does Google decide what site should rank at the top? Well, really, it's based on trust. Google tends to rank trustworthy sites at the top because they're more likely to provide the better result. So how do you prove that your site is trustworthy? Well, when a site that Google already deems as trustworthy links back to your website, it's a signal to Google that your site must also be trustworthy. And that's why it's important to have a strategy in place to acquire these links. Now, what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at the quantity versus quality. Now, the thing with backlinks is that not all backlinks are created equal. So Google's not just looking at how many links you have to your site, but they're also paying attention to who that link is coming from. So for example, one link from a very reputable source, a really reputable brand in your industry, holds a lot more value than 100 backlinks from these spammy directory type sites.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dan. And one tool that we use internally here is called Ahrefs, and this gives us a good understanding for a backlink profile for a site. And I pulled an example of Haley Marketing Group here, and not to toot our own horn, but you'd be hard pressed to find a site that has more backlinks, more referring domains, higher domain rating. And that's all because of our content. We produce good, amazing content. We leverage that, and that has helped us build a ton of inbound links. All right. And again, Google has come out and they've told us that if you want more links, you need to create better content. Their number one tip on their webmaster blog for building links is to start blogging, and then kickstart your inbound link building. Share this content on social. Repurpose blog content as a LinkedIn Pulse article. Share it on Facebook. Get it in front of the right target audience. Get it in front of people that are likely to repost and share and link back to you. That's a great way to build that content. Now, other link building strategies, and one that I think is pretty easy to do, costs a little bit of money, but create press releases. Whenever you win an award, hire a new person, have internal promotions, release an extensive research study or white paper, create a press release for that announcement, and then use a paid distribution service like Cision or PR Newswire and get that out to the masses. Now, it's probably not going to be picked up by newspaper after newspaper in your local market, but what it does do with the paid version of these releases is allow you to embed a link, and it will get pulled into the online news feeds of some very reputable newspapers. It's a great way to build inbound links back to your site. You can submit career fairs, open houses, hiring events to local newspapers as events on their calendar. Many of these calendar event submissions are free. Not only is it going to get your event in front of more and more people and drive up the likelihood of people showing up to your event, it's going to build an inbound link. Share content on social networks like we just mentioned. Provide testimonials to your vendors. For any clients that are out there listening, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a testimonial, boy, we sure will include that on our website. We're going to include a link back to your website. It's a great way to build inbound links. Claim all your social and local listings. There's sites out there like or services like Yext that will help you claim all those citations and make sure they're consistent across the board. Look at any local associations or industry associations that you're a member of. Make sure that your profiles are updated and linked back. You provide something that is extremely valuable to college students. Job opportunities, career opportunities. Connect with local colleges and university career offices. Get links back to your job board. It's a great recruiting source that you should be leveraging, but it's a great way to build very reputable inbound links back to your site. If you can get .edu links back to your site, those are extremely reputable. And as Dan mentioned earlier, it's a signal to Google that, hey, you're important because a very important site is linking back to you. You could look at guest blogging for quality, relevant news sites out there. Creating pillar content like we mentioned earlier that people really want to link to. And the last tip here, and Dan, I'm going to ask you this question. Can't you just buy these links?
So like we mentioned, not all backlinks are created equal. There are services out there that will promise to build 10,000 backlinks for you for like 20 bucks. The thing with these links is that they really hold no value, and they can actually result in a penalty. So just remember, if it seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, Dan mentioned we've seen sites out there that have gone and bought backlinks for a few dollars, and their link profile tanks, their SEO results tank, their traffic tanks. So just don't do it. All right. We talked a little bit about user experience, and we talked about RankBrain and everything that goes along with that. Now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. So to improve the user experience, first and foremost, you need a good host. Page load speed is a ranking factor. So make sure that you use a host that has speedy servers. If you do a lot with video, host those on an outside service like YouTube or Vimeo, embed those. It'll speed up your site. Make sure that you have good, clean programming. There's been a lot of changes and advancements in how sites are built over the last year, and advancement continues to happen. So if you have a site that's 2 or 3 years old, you're out of date. You need to take a look at that, especially if SEO is something that's very important to you. And you might need to rebuild your site. You might need some updates to your site to get that to a point that's faster, that's speedier, that's up to date. Look at using something called caching or content delivery networks to speed things up. Choose a good content management platform. If you're on WordPress, make sure that your plugins are up to date and everything is secure. Now, short aside here, if you're hosting with Haley Marketing Group, we're taking all these things into account. Host your DNS with a reputable registrar. We're using Cloudflare now, and we've seen page load speeds go up dramatically because of it. Use a host with redundancy built into their infrastructure. Periodically, we'll see a client that wants to host everything internally. Why? There's companies out there that focus solely on hosting. Do it well, do it way better than you ever could. So leverage that. Don't look to host this internally. Make sure that, again, that your website is fast. Consumers expect it. There's some interesting stats on this page. I won't go through them all, but 1 second delay in page response can result in a 7% reduction in conversions. Now, most of the people listening in on this webinar aren't focused solely on e-commerce, but if your site's not fast, if your application isn't fast and speedy, you're losing applications. And think about how many dollars you spend to get candidates to your site the first time. Make it fast, make it simple, make it easy. Again, you need a fast framework. You need good web hosting, proper caching. Make sure that things like JavaScript and CSS files are minified. Make sure that images are optimized. Use a content delivery network. Make sure images are compressed, and make sure you use clean code and lightweight plugins. Again, if you're hosting with Haley Marketing Group, these are things that we're constantly looking at and evaluating each and every day. We have a full team here that focuses in that area. A lot of resources are dedicated there. So just make sure you're using a good host. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about security. And you need to make sure that your website is secure. It's on HTTPS. Here's an interesting graphic that we found on the importance. Again, some of these are tied to things like e-commerce, but some amazing statistics here. About 40% of Google Page 1 organic listings are from secure sites. If your site isn't secure yet, get it there. What are you waiting for? Google started announcing way back in 2014 that webmasters should use SSL encryption to improve security. In 2016, they came out and said that sites will be marked as unsafe by displaying a red X in the Chrome browser. If you look to the graphic on the right, you'll see now that they're putting a not secure message, and this is how it's going to be pretty soon for every site out there that's just on HTTP. You need to make sure that your site's secure. If you're not doing it right now, make it a priority for 2018. If you take nothing else away from this, make sure your site's secure. And then from a recruiting standpoint, if your site and your jobs aren't on SSL, you're not getting into aggregators like ZipRecruiter. You're leaving a lot of potential free traffic out on the board. So just make sure that you have SSL. It's a little bit of extra cost, a little bit more maintenance, well worth it. Don't be, penny wise and pound foolish. Invest in SSL. All right, we're going to transition a little bit over to mobile SEO. I mentioned earlier in the webinar that more people are now searching on mobile than on desktop, so you need to optimize with mobile in mind. To optimize with mobile in mind, the first thing you need to do is make sure that your website is built with mobile in mind. The world's made a rapid shift over to mobile, and so is Google. It's important that you make sure that your website looks, feels, engages, and has a great user experience on mobile. And you can't forget to check your job board. So after you listen to this, pull out your mobile phone, pull up your website, see how easy it is to navigate throughout the site, see how easy it is to interact and engage with the site, see how easy it is to navigate and find the information you want, and then hop over to your job board and see how easy it is to apply. If you wouldn't complete the application process, do you think anybody else is gonna? Take your time and look at your site on mobile, make sure that it's great. Make sure that your site's responsive. So the sites that we build now are responsive. It's no longer having a separate mobile site and a separate desktop site. Everything works together. It resizes and optimizes for the device that you're on. So on-page elements adjust to the user screen automatically. And that's how Google prefers things, and it's better for the user. All right, so that's mobile. Next, I want to talk a little bit about voice. And as you may have seen, Google just released some interesting takes on voice and how Google's Assistant now can schedule hair and nail and salon appointments for you. It's becoming extremely smart. SEO needs to advance so that it's more friendly for voice as well. More people are using voice SEO. And Dan, maybe I know you did some research on this and found out how truly important voice actually is.
Yeah, and I just wanted to highlight the stat by ComScore that predicts that 50% of all searches will be done by voice in 2020. So with devices like Alexa and voice assistants on mobile devices becoming more and more prevalent, it's important that we keep an eye on these trends moving forward in 2018.
Yeah, very important. It's going to become much more of the norm moving forward. So how do you optimize your staffing website for voice? Well, here are just a few tips. And this is going to change as voice becomes more strategic, as machine learning advances. This is going to change, but this is a good place to get started. Number one, write more Q&A content and be deliberate about that. People are using voice to ask very specific questions. All too often, I see staffing websites out there that have a great Q&A page, but it's this whole long list of questions on the same page. Okay, that's not optimizing for voice. So in order to optimize for voice, you want to make sure that you create individual Q&A pages for each question. Ensure that your website is coded with the proper schema markup, and we'll get into what schema is here in a minute. Create what they call listicle articles, so a top 5 list, top 10 list, ranking lists. Those oftentimes show up well for voice. You can also include long tail keyword search strings. So answer a long question, include longer tail. People using voice are more likely to use a longer tail search string. Use location-based search terms more. So voice is very, very impactful for local SEO. So you might want to mix in terms like employment agencies near me, temp companies near me, jobs hiring near me. As more people are using their mobile devices, they're tying that to their existing geographic location. You can take advantage of it by incorporating more of these terms into your site. So that's voice. Now, I warned you earlier, and I'm going to warn you again, we're going to geek out here for a minute, and we're going to talk a little different language, though it's important. So even if you're not technically savvy, it's important that you know what we're talking about here. So Dan, introduce us to schema and what schema actually is.
So schema markup is basically code that you can put on your web pages to make it easier for the search engines to categorize and understand what these pages are actually about. And the search engines will use this to help them effectively serve up relevant results.
Yeah, so it's kind of like mapping. So it's on the back end using schema markup to tell Google exactly what category a piece of content falls into. And it's important for things like ratings or recipes or quotes or other things like that. But where it really comes into play for everyone listening to this webinar is on your jobs. There's a recruiting challenge right now. There's a talent shortage, and we're doing everything that we can to get our positions in front of the right target audience. And you may have heard of a little thing called Google for Jobs. So more and more people are going directly to Google to start their job search. If you want your jobs showing up on Google for Jobs, you either need to partner with somebody who's already optimized, like Haley Marketing Group, like Career Builder, like some of the other job boards, or you need to make sure that your job listings have the proper schema markup. And that's telling Google that this piece of content on your site falls into the job category. It's telling them, it's telling Google exactly where to find the title of the position, exactly where the location is, exactly what the date posted is. And you need to be very deliberate in how this is coded on your site so that Google can pull this and index this information easily and then map fields from your site to how they need to display it. And the good news here is that if you're using the Haley Marketing job board, we have optimized this already for you. It does include schema markup. We've done the proper mapping. We've made sure that everything is up to Google for Jobs standards so that it can be easily pulled into Google for Jobs listings and your job opportunities get more visibility and for the time being more free visibility, which is very important. Okay, I included a link over to Google's developer site here that talks about schema markup and what schema markup needs to be on your job posts in order to optimize it for Google for Jobs. So you can, if you want the technical details, hop over there and read more about this. And we're almost at the end here, but I wanted to mention something called featured snippets. We're going to see more and more of these featured snippets moving forward. And you've probably seen this when you do a Google search. Sometimes you just get a listing of sites, and sometimes you get rich information there. What Google's trying to do is actually answer your search question and serve up information easily for you. Okay, now in almost all searches, there will only be one featured snippet. Okay, so if you can get into that key area, that's better than ranking in the first spot. That's what they technically call spot 0 in rankings. You're going to get a ton of traffic to that post. And here's an example of a featured snippet that Haley Marketing earned. So we have a great area of our site that talks about recruiting ideas. We've coded this the right way. We've used structured data markup so that Google can easily index this information, and it's a list of great recruiting ideas. This particular blog post on our site just last month, in the last 30 days, got 2,600 visits. And a lot of that came because we're featured in a rich snippet here. Now, here's another practical example. This is one of our clients that we write blog content for. We wrote a post on how to prove you're detail-oriented in an interview. Okay? We're answering a question that users are searching for, and we earned a rich snippet for a variety of keywords because of that. By earning that rich snippet, we've doubled our search engine traffic over last year. And as long as we maintain this rich snippet, we're going to continue to see this post get a ton of traffic. This post, this one single post, gets more traffic than this company's homepage. So we're getting their brand in front of a lot more people. We're getting in front of people that are searching for solutions to a specific question that they have. And we're positioning this company as an expert. This is all helping with search engine optimization. So a few tips on how you get a featured snippet. Number one, which is not on here, hope and pray, because there is really no formula for getting a featured snippet. There are some best practices, and there's not a list of the 10 things that you need to do in order to get a featured snippet, but here are some best practices. Write how-to articles. Ask and answer questions. What are the most common interview questions? What should I ask during a reference check? Think about the questions that you get all the time. Write content around those. Use tools to help. Internally here, I mentioned a few times that we use a tool called SEMrush. And within SEMrush, this is a paid tool, but it has a snippet search tool. So we can look at competitors in the market and see where they rank and have earned a rich snippet. And then we can try to pirate and outrank them and get that snippet. There's another tool called Answer the Public that we love. You can type in a theme and it will tell you all of the different questions people are typing into Google around that theme. Build an individual piece of content around all of those questions. You need to be direct and get to the point. Featured snippets usually are only 40 to 50 words. So make use of the first 40 to 50 words in your blog post and make it simple and easy for Google to index that content and answer the question that the searcher is asking. And then by all means, structure your content with heading tags. And we talked about that earlier. So that's all the geeking out that we're going to do today. What this all boils down to, and the key to getting better SEO and driving more search ranking, is number one, write great content. Make sure that that content in your website's coded properly and you have a great user experience. Get more inbound links and more high quality inbound links. Do your research using tools like Google Search Console, Google Analytics, SEMrush, Ahrefs. There's a lot of tools out there where you can do your research to see how you're performing. And then you want to tweak, adjust, and repeat. Or you can just call Haley Marketing Group. We do this for a living. Dan does this day in and day out, and he's achieved some truly amazing results for our clients. We offer SEO on a one-time basis where we'll go through and optimize the foundation for your site, and then you can build from there on out. We do content writing specifically for staffing firms, so we can add great content to your site. And then we offer an ongoing SEO service where each month we'll come up with an SEO strategy that incorporates all these great things that we just mentioned in today's webinar for a monthly fee of $650. So we'll take care of it for you. We'll make sure that you consistently get good results in search, that we're driving traffic, and that we're continually advancing. So with that said, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. Again, we apologize that there was a little snafu with GoToWebinar and they had an outage, but I hope you liked how we presented this through Facebook. Again, we're always testing new things and we're excited to see how this Facebook Live test works out. But if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Brad Smith, reach out to our SEO analyst, Dan Hong, give us a call, visit our website. We have a lot of great other resources on our website. And again, we hope you found value in today's presentation. Thanks so much. A question did come in that I did want to address. Thank you from our friends at Pace Staffing. If you have an inbound link from a non-reputable site, how do you take care of that? And the best way to do it is by something called disavowing that link. And that's done through Google Search Console. But basically, you're going out and you're telling Google, hey, this is an unreputable link. We're not associated with this. Here's the site that we want to disavow. We want to disassociate our website with that link. You can do that right through Google Webmaster Tools. If you have a question or concern, you can reach out to us and we can help with that situation. But that's the best approach. You could also try reaching out to that site and see if they'll take it down. Probably not going to have too much luck, especially if it's a non-reputable site. So yeah, your easiest approach is going directly through Google Search Console. Thank you.